Welcome back to another review and feedback game. I found this one on the StarCraft 2 only subreddit. It was submitted with an inquiry about how to beat 2 base, 4 rack, 1 starport, 1 factory as Zerg. So we're going to kind of focus on the Zerg side of things, but we do know what the Terran's going to be doing when we play through this. The league is an interesting discrepancy between the players. But I just wanted you to understand that this one is going to be more of a how do we beat this build? Actually, that might be a good title. Let's go ahead and jump right into our StarCraft 2 load-in, and then we will go ahead and cover what's going on. So we have a Zerg on the red side here who has submitted the inquiry. Obviously, this is going to be interesting. And then, of course, we have the Terran on the other side in blue. So we're going to have normal openings. We're not going to do anything funny, I believe. We'll see what the Zerg is going to do. I'm going to just sort of kind of fast forward until we get to the point where we actually have Zerg doing Zerg things. Early scout from the Zerg, which is not a bad choice. You can always identify 5-rack placement, 2-rack Reaper play, where they wall off the low ground, which this map is commonly used for, 3-rack proxies, stuff like that. So I can understand why you'd send that drone across. A little bit early, in my opinion, but that's okay. Looks very standard. We have a pool on normal timing, extractor on normal timing. And then, of course, the hatch was about right on timing. I think it was actually pretty close to perfect. Excuse me as I take a drink. The Terran did a good job defending, pushed the drone away, but didn't really do anything else there. Opens with a Marine versus a Reaper, so we are going to be gas heavy. I don't quite understand what we're doing here with regards to the build. Okay, I see what we're doing. So high ground build with the command center, not a bad choice. Supply depot late, but that's okay because we are grabbing a barracks add-on, which means that the supply depot can be late. But everything else looks totally normal here. I don't see anything funny. Just a slight variation on kind of normal build. The only thing it is that you want to use that Marine to try and get this Overlord if you can help it, especially if you send an SCV across the map. I think that was just a misclick, and they saw it when they got to the other side of the map and pulled back. Circling speed, all that kind of stuff coming up. All right, so right now this is basically a 2-1-1. Nothing funny, nothing weird. Looks like they're going to probably open out with almost a straight up 2-1-1. They're blowing off the low ground, all that kind of stuff. I probably would have placed the command center on the low ground. And to each their own. There's reasons to and reasons not to. It depends on how tight your build needs to be, stuff like that. This build isn't exactly super tight. You can see that there was downtime on production, even though it's a 2-on-1. You're not seeing anything crazy, anything weird. The Zerg on the other side is expanding. This is what you kind of want to do. I would have probably gone to this location versus this location. Okay, so I'm going to pause this for a second. Things to know about Terran. High-low ground differentiation is super powerful for their 2-on-1 drops. So if you think your opponent, which there's a pretty big contingency of players that play 2-1-1. It's not all of them. You need to scout. We haven't scouted. We don't know for sure. This information's not, we don't know, right? But generally speaking, you want to try and avoid doing this cliff differentiation here, because what will happen is you'll send your lings down here, they'll drop right here. You'll send your lings up here, they'll drop right here. They don't care. And they'll focus down the queens, so they could do that all day. You eventually split, and then the Marines overwhelm the number of lings that you have, because you have 16 Marines. You can put them in this little cubby here, and you'll just be able to destroy the Zerglings. So you're going to want to try and get to a Baneling nest, which obviously this player is doing, and you want to get to layer so that you can get Baneling speed, and or you want to go to layer to get mutas to shut that down. That being said, this location, generally speaking, is weakest for a Zerg player because of that tactic there. Other things that can happen, a Liberator, right? You put the Liberator right there, then you transition, push it over here, or you put a Liberator here, you protect yourself and go to the other side. This is the more dangerous location for This is the more dangerous location for Liberators, because they can just park it in the dead zone And that's just the way it is, right? This map is one of those where you have the choice of a third. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just forced into this location, which those maps are generally favored to Terran because of the 2-1-1 transaction. Or not transaction. Build order against what you're going to do and most players play against. Regardless, I don't see anything really going poorly here. I think everything's being done well. Gas saturation's a little low. There's not enough queens. There's way too much minerals. And there's not enough overlords. Little tweaks here and there. You don't really... also, you missed your gas. I know you wanted to do it. You just missed it. That's just a minor issue. You built an extra gas, so you're actually playing 3 gas. So you lost a worker for no reason. Or early for no reason. But yeah, more queen. Like, look, this is 10 queens right here. Okay. Just to be very clear, that is so much minerals. You should have at least another base, if not 2 extra bases, and at least 3 more queens. You should also have at least 20 to 4, I think is the magic number of Zerglings. Like, there's just things that are being missed. That's just the challenge, right? This is a 2-1-1. Already had Spore Crawlers out. Like, if you had 4 queens come over here and attack these medevacs, yeah, exactly like talk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Lynx can't do anything about it. They're just in trouble, right? Like, you just this is not what you want to be interacting with. And you can have a much lower level Terran pull apart a Zerg because of this little interaction. This Spore should be in the mineral line on each one of these bases. The reason being is Liberators, 1. And 2, if they decide to do a Banshee, right? Obviously, you now know they're doing a 2-1-1, but you have to protect yourself from those specific builds that you know that people like to do. This point in the game, not enough workers for both players. Actually, that's not too bad. 61 at 7 minutes. It's a little low. Not terribly low. Again, saturation's not great. Nice. Okay. So, you know they went 2-1-1. Did you sec? I know there was an Overlord that went in. Didn't even make it very far if it did go in. I know there was an Overlord over here. At some point, you want to send this Overlord in. You literally want to go in and see exactly what they're doing. You sacrifice that Overlord. That's why I was saying you were low on Overlords. Now you're over on Overlords. You want about probably 24 extra supply of Zerg at about the 7-minute mark is my understanding. I'm not a great Zerg player, so don't quote me on that. I'm not a GM. I don't have all that kind of stuff. But I do know that you want to have 24 lings for Hellions at by the time you get your 3rd. I know you don't want Spore Colonies or Spore Crawlers, 1 in each base at the mineral line, either protecting your gas or protecting all your minerals. You get to choose. You can like offset. You can go like right here or right in the middle, depending. Sorry, this is a better base as an example. You could place it like right here, or you could place it like right here. Right, you're looking to maximize the coverage with that, so that your queens can shoot things as well as make sure that you have the ability to cover your workers as best you're able. And I would be saturating this gas over this gas. You probably there's too many little things here that I'm not going to get in. I'm getting into, and really we're not talking about what we're trying to do. Point being is the Spore Crawlers, there is too many. They're all over the place. The saturation's a little funky. Like, there's just a lot of little things that I'm like, what are we doing here? As well as there's definitely not enough queens on the field. There's 3 queens. You literally want triple the number of queens to the number of bases you have until about the 10-minute mark. At that point, you can your queens should be getting culled because you're going to have them out on the creep trying to spread it, right? Imagine if you had 6 to 10 creep tumors out pushing all of this all over the place. Imagine that you had more bases protected, etc. Right, about 2 to 3 times as many queens as there is bases. We're going to slow it down a little bit. Other things that we want to note: you need to send in your lings first, then your banes. Not just send in your banes. That is a really good bane hit. Oh my goodness, that worked out really well. Where's your follow-up lings? Where's your where are your queens? Your 10 queens that you should have. Where is your injects on all of your bases? So, in short, things that are a little that could be improved are basically your economy. You just don't have the queens for your economy. which is really putting you in a really bad spot. You're floating a ton of money, even though you have a double hatchery count. Your opponent is doing a +1 with 4 racks, I believe is what you said, but that's actually 5 racks. They have combat shield and stim. You've done nothing to distract them from their build. You've been completely defensive, so you're like Cyril in the sense of you're not very you're not pressing your opponent, which is again going to cause you problems. You're trying to like be Cyril, which is great. It's like that's a good strategy. It's a good thing. Ooh, wow, that was a really good positioning. You're stacking overseers, can't do that, and they're just parade pushing you at this point. So the short answer is don't let them get to this point, right? Like that's the short answer. But let's go ahead and like really go in and talk about what you should be doing with regards to the game itself. So we're gonna just sit in your view. So we kind of reviewed the game, we kind of watched what happened. I pointed out some mistakes here and there, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna go on normal speed. One more time, we're gonna go on your view, just so you understand what you're missing based off the information that's in front of you. We don't know anything about our opponent at this point at all. I cannot shut down their production, so for those of you that are watching and expect, like that's just something you can't do. The play that you do right now is a 14-14, and you're getting Overlord, and then you're going to go to 2 drones immediately. 3 drones immediately, which is fine. This is expected. And then you are scouting early. I like this a lot. I haven't seen this at high level play a lot, if at all. And I also haven't seen, like, the idea is great. I like the concept. I think you might be a Protoss player, because Protoss likes to send that initial probe across and harass the Terran's worker on that barracks, which is great. That a little bit of harassment is always useful. It makes it so your opponent has to do extra things. Obviously, continuing to produce workers, continuing to do things. I imagine you're going to go immediately into a gas, because you don't have the money for the pool. And then you get a pool immediately after that. Don't mess up your saturation. You haven't. You are now messing up your saturation. So this is why this build is not played at the highest level. Let's just look right here. We're not going to flick around and all that kind of stuff. Is you're not fully saturated, and you don't have workers about to fully saturate this. This is literally the reason this build is not standard. It is a cool idea to harass your opponent, but you're leaving income on the table. And that's why this build is slightly inferior. At this point, you should probably be getting ready to get that 3rd base right now. You have enough money, right? We have enough money. You're close to oversaturated or maxing out with your supply. You don't have any spawning. You don't have any. Your queens aren't out. You don't have anything else. You can grab that base because you're not going to have the army to defend what you need to anyways. Like, it's not going to hurt you to have it. Other than that, if a Reaper comes in, you're not going to be able to defend it very effectively. You just have to be really good about pulling the weak workers away while your queens are being produced. In addition, this is a long way away. You're 15 seconds away, 16 seconds away from finishing your pool, which means that your queens are going to be that much slower. Bear with me. We're going to go back ever so slightly because I like this build. I think it's a good concept. What I probably would have done is gotten the spawning pool first. So the reason that I say that, we're going to look at this, we're going to keep an eye on our money. We have 200 minerals. We actually have 225 minerals because we haven't started the gas. So if you started a spawning pool, that extra 300 minerals that you had that was floating when that drone came back would not exist because you'd be able to be producing a queen and an overlord at the same time to consume that money. So what we're doing is this is like, when you start to craft your own build, you have to understand what you're doing with your money at all times. You basically want to have specific points where you're either at 0 income because you've spent your money, right? You have 50 resources, but where is that 50 resources going? You don't have the ability to build queen. You don't have the larva. You have to have some place to be able to spend it. That's essentially what we're looking at. So this build, to refine it better, would be to build the spawning pool first and then get the extractor. The reason being is because you're going to be building an overlord to make it so you don't float in a little bit with your money, right? And then So just like you need to refine your build. This build is just not efficient. It needs a couple of touches here and there. I could really see this being something that could change the overall matchup with being just annoying like a Protoss player. But remember, you're not getting ahead right now with your production of income. 2 queens immediately are coming up. That's great. And you don't have enough gas to make it so you have metabolic boost. So this is where, again, you're kind of like your build's not efficient. You're kind of lacking. I would have grabbed, a third base when you're at 400 minerals or so. It's okay to only have 1 queen because you don't have any workers down here. It's okay to have 18 supply up of workers here, etc. Like, there's lots of little things you could do to improve what you're doing. All right, so what information do you have? You know that they're building a bunker, so you know they're going to expand. You know that they built a barracks, and that's it. You haven't seen a Reaper. It's about time for a Reaper, so that's just at the 230, 245-ish, they should be hitting you with a Reaper. And your queens are out, cool, you're safe, whatever. Creep spread, I like this. This is what you'd normally do. Again, you're floating 300 resources. Where are we spending it? Let's get double queen and an overlord. Make sure we don't supply block ourselves, etc. So we would be hitting a supply block. We need another overlord immediately, and we need more queens. You're short queens, and that's where the overlord is. So you get 1 overlord, 1 queen and 1 overlord at the same time, etc. Minor quips, all of these things. We're still at the point where we don't have any information, so you're just trying to build your economy and go up, which you're doing perfectly fine. No problems in any way, shape, or form with what you're doing. This Overlord is great because you know now that they're saturated, their bunker, you know that they have their command center. The downside is you didn't know when that command center went there. You don't know how many workers they have on it. Okay, not a big deal. I'm being a little harsh here. I like this dive. You're seeing, oh, what are they doing? Obviously, it's a 2-1-1. Perfect. Now you know it's a 2-1-1. Build more queens. Build more lings. Build speed. Get your Bane speed. Make sure you're saturated properly. Make sure you're going to get Muta if you're going to shut down via Muta or more queens. You need to make those decisions. You need to split your lings a little bit better. I'd probably have like 4 or 5 over here just so that your queens are able to respond if they decide to drop on the north side versus the open side. I do like the Spore Crawler positioning. Again, your extra queens should be here too, right? You should have 3 extra queens. If you think they're going to come that way, I would actually move this Overlord in a way to make it so you don't have that aforementioned knowledge, because you want them to not go over your creep. You don't want them to know that you know they're coming, right? Mind games. My opponent is going to drop on me. Okay, how do I make it so I can completely kill the drop and make it so that they don't know that I know? You flew this through. You know that they were flying at you at some point. 550 is a little bit late. This is about 15-ish seconds behind when you'd normally see a pro. Maybe 25 seconds behind a pro actually doing this position. Because they do a double boost. They also have their units ready to go into the medevacs as soon as it comes in. That cuts a couple of seconds here and there. They're more efficient with the build. For example, this would be located there, blah, blah, blah. I know that some people are tearing out or watching this. That's why I'm kind of pointing out these other things. But from a... conceptually, this is great, but you're missing queens. You need the queens that you should have been building with the 1,600 minerals should be over here. And then you should lay a trap, a.k.a. have the queens ready on that creep, have the creep spread ready. Don't spread the creep. Move this Overlord away so you pretend that you don't know it's coming, right? Okay. Back to what we're seeing. Okay, cool. You know that they're dropping. Awesome. Let's go ahead and shut them down. You're doing a good job. You're killing Marines. You're making your opponent struggle a little bit, but you F2'd losing your Overseer here. And then your queens, again, aren't here to support in any way, shape, or form. You're going to lose your Spore Crawlers. You're not in a position to make it so that you're protecting yourself because you don't have any units, because you didn't build enough extra lings, which I talked about, right? You know that it's a 2-1-1. You know it's coming. Build the extra stuff there. Make it so you're ready. Make sure that you have the ability to shut down the differences and all that kind of stuff. These workers, send to the other base that you're going to build. You have an extra 600 resources. Spend it. Use it in a way that matters. Queens need to be under production, at the very least under production. I know that they're not there. I like your Overlord. That's too many Overlords, but you had the money, so fine. The problem with too many overlords is that you don't have the lings because you don't have the larva. Literally, if you look at your unit count, you have 0 larva. Sorry, 3 from 1 inject. So, straight up, your build is just... You don't have enough queens. If you play Zerg, you need to have queens. I like the Triplix tech, except for the whole part of you don't have the other tech to go with it. Where's your Hydroden? Where's your... where's your Hydroden? Because we're going that direction, right? If you're going to get triple Evo Chamber, we know you're going Hydra, Lurker, right? Where is the Hydra Lurker? Also, I wouldn't put them all together. The reason being is because you don't want your opponent to have that information that they know you're going to go ground. So throw one here, and then like throw one up here or something. Or use them as a SimCity. Send one, put 2 here, and then put another one like way back here that's hidden. So that you're not telegraphing to your opponent when they're doing their drops, because they're doing a 2-1-1, what they're doing. You now have information that they're coming. What is your production? Upgrades? Okay, cool. 2 hatcheries. How many larvae do you got? 9. You need, right now, more queens, banelings, and lings. That's it. Kill this building. Screw it. You don't need it. Queen, right? They're decent at tanking, and they kill medevacs. 4 medevacs is hard to deal with. You can see that they were doing that. Let's go back just a second. When they started shooting this, I don't know how quickly you are. You got to look at your mini-map, right? We're paying attention. We're reviewing. Obviously, I'm going to have a lot more information because I'm able to see both sides. I've seen the game already. But you know they have 4 medevacs. You know they have some Widow Mines. Make it so you have enough queens to kill those. All right. We'll continue. You're kind of in a pickle because you've decided to commit to this gas-heavy thing without the gas-powered unit. I do like the Banes, but they had stemmed already, and they already healed up. So they have, you know that they got combat shields, you know that they have stem, because you've seen stem already. You can also see graphically that they have combat shield. You don't want to lose any units without having a follow-up to completely kill this. You have to have queens shooting this, you have to have another 20 wings. Obviously, you're trying to produce wings, you don't have enough queens, and at this point, you're splitting your army. Their army is got +1, a little bit more powerful. They're going to shut you down. Game's over because you don't have, again, enough queens. You also don't have that Hydroden yet, so you don't have any Hydralisks. You don't have an... and you're floating all this money, and you're trying to defend with drones against Widow Mines, Marines, Marauders, and Medevacs. With a queen. Again, you haven't. These are totally out of the game. They haven't done anything where you're completely out. Your upgrades aren't there. You haven't done anything with it. Basically, you knew what was coming, but you didn't do anything about it. Also, you should change this to an Overseer and dive around. I'm not a good Zerg player, so that was a really good Baneling hit. That other Baneling hit was great, but you don't have anything to follow up with it, so I would have probably done your best to keep your army back as long as you possibly could. Wait until you have a critical mass that's going to be able to shut down this army, basically. If you had 50-ish Lings and 20 Banelings versus hitting him with 20, like 5 to 10 units of each, you'd be doing a lot better. Also, if they're going to track your Ling, get it on a Medevacs, get it on Marines if you can, help it, etc. Make sure you're like utilizing Widow Mines. God, Widow Mines are such a pain to deal with. Basically, you want the Widow Mine lasers to hit the opponent, so you have to have enough units that are gonna hit their stuff as it happens. Also, if you're gonna lose a base, and you know you're gonna lose a base, try and time your attack for when the spawnlings come out. These are some things that you don't really have to worry about too much at this point in the game. The game's already over. And obviously your opponent's just going to cut you forever. You can't get there. These workers are forfeit. You don't have enough army. Yeah, you have 2-2-2, but you don't have anything to go with it. You're out of gas. You're out of income. You're oversaturated. You didn't fully saturate all the gases. This literally built, no gas ever removed. You built that, no gas ever removed. I don't remember if you did anything with the extractors here. Point being is, there's a lot of holes in your gameplay that need to be plugged before you really go, this build is the reason I lost. What happened was you gathered information with your Overlord, which was excellent. You didn't lose it. You positioned yourself well, but you didn't have the proper unit composition to completely shut it down. Sorry, not shut it up. Sorry, that was on me. Shut up, Ritho. That's what's going through my head. I'm saying end this. Because I've reiterated this a million times. If you had more queens, you probably would have been able to kill those 2 medevacs initially, completely thrown your opponent off on their push because it would have been short 2 more medevacs. You would have been able to make sure they didn't ever get a third, and make sure you threatened them from marching across the map with 20 lings over here, having another 50 lings or so at home with about 20 banelings. You totally shut down that push. You run in as they go out because you have scouted that they're going out. You have an idea that they're there because you had a ling here. That was really good. I really like that, etc. Right? There's a lot of little things. If you had just a run-by squad here of 20 lings, and you had a larger number of lings and queens and banes, which you had the money for. That's the key. You had the money for it. Every time you're just floating a lot of resources. You also need to be very careful not to get supply capped. You need to be paying attention. There's specific points in every player's head where they get supply capped. I know where I get supply capped, which is 102 in that area, whatever it is, 104, whatever that supply count is. I always, that's just a struggle point for me. There's another one around the 60-50-ish area that I've actually corrected and has helped my gameplay immensely. It actually helped me gain about 400 MMR because I just was able to produce units because I wasn't supply capped. And then I also have a weird spot in 160 because I don't usually get that late in the game. My games end in mid-game or they're winding down at that point. I usually don't see a 200 army very often as a Terran. I am talking about Terran. Zerg, supply issues are 32 for me, 58, in the 90s, etc. Right? There's 180. 180 is a weird spot for me. I don't know why I do that always. Protoss, I have issues with the 24 spot, whatever the I always forget my second pylon. For whatever reason, it just escapes me. It's because I also play a very aggressive strategy, blah, 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 blah. Point being is every player has points where they struggle with their supply, and you need to just make sure that you're thinking about that when you review your gameplays, and then say, oh, I need to not have that problem. You need to make sure you have enough units at specific points. Hey, where's the Banshee play? Where is the medevac drops? Where's the Hellion run-bys? Right? Those are the 3 things you got to worry about for Terran at this point in the game. There's some goofy stuff like Ghost play and whatnot. But you need 6 or 7 queens right now, minimum. And you have the money for it. Easily. You even have the larva for the overlords and the money for both the overlords and the queens. Right? If you had just had more queens, this game would have been over, right? You would have been able to shut this down. This is so important that they don't lose this army here. Also, I wouldn't have canceled all that. I probably would have continued to get the 8 banelings you were getting, and just let them do their thing. Essentially, right? Sorry, little minor quips. Regardless, this is the Terran did a really, really good job of coming across the map, doing damage. The scouting was pretty solid. Had a good idea what their opponent was doing. Wasn't able to confirm that it was a 4 racks. This is a 5 racks with a factory in a starport. And they're kind of shy on their number of drop ships, and they're kind of shy on the number of Widow Mines. But this build is more heavier Marauder Mariner, and that's okay, right? I probably would split off a single group of drop to hit over here while I was attacking over here or whatever. I wasn't really paying attention to the Terran at all. This build, again, they're supply capped at 94, right? They didn't get a 3rd base, but they're parade pushing on a 2 base. And that's, if you'd completely shut it down, you'd have been so far ahead if you were on 4 base, it's not even funny. And you could have been. That's what, you could have been there. You just need to double or triple the number of queens. You need to make sure that your injects are on point. All of these, you built these macro hatches, there should be a queen injecting them. There should be a queen injecting them. All of these bases. But all of the bases that you have, you should be injecting. Every single base. If you're not injecting, I inject into like the 20-minute mark when I'm Zerg. If I ever get that far. Oh my god, that it was so disgusting. I know. Okay. I think you get what I'm trying to articulate. I don't need to harass you on these kind of points any further. I think you've done a wonderful job with a lot of things. You just, like, your build order, your queen count is where you struggled. Your unit control has been phenomenal. Your understanding of when to scout and see what your opponent's doing is phenomenal. Your response to how they're going to do stuff was okay and is an easy fix. Just continue to produce queens until you have like 9 to 10, 12 in that area. I think 10 is the cut point. But don't quote me on me. And then if you know you're going to go Hydralisk, get a Hydralisk Den, right? Like, don't sacrifice your build as soon as you know that your opponent's doing something. Regardless, I really do appreciate what happened here. This is a good conversation to have. A lot of Terrans struggle against a Zerg playing this play, and a lot of Zergs struggle against a Terran that is doing this play. So this is a really good conversation about a 2-1-1 into a 4-1-1. Regardless, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for watching, and I hope you come back. See you again. Bye-bye.